In today's lesson, we'll be learning how to factor quadratic relations. Factoring a quadratic relation turns a parabola in standard form into a parabola in factored form. If you recall, standard form is useful because C tells us the value of the y-intercept. Factored form is useful because it indirectly tells us the values of the x-intercepts. There are some calculations required, but they indirectly tell us the values of the x-intercepts. In our first example, we want to factor a parabola in standard form. Before we begin, let's identify the values of a, b, and c. A is the value in front of the x squared term. B is the value in front of the x term. And c is the value at the end of the parabola in standard form. Now over on your right, I want to identify my value of c. It is plus 4. I'm going to write the plus sign in. I'm going to write it again. And last but not least, I'm going to write the value of b, which is positive 4 as well. That's just a coincidence. In our first column, we want to think of factors of positive 4. I can think of 1 and 4. Now, the product of these two numbers must be equal to positive 4. Well, 1 times 4 is equal to 4. That sounds good so far. However, the sum of these two numbers must be equal to positive 4. Well, 1 plus 4 is equal to 5. Therefore, the factors of 1 and 4 don't really work. Let's think of two other factors. Let's think of 2 and 2. Okay, so the product must be positive 4. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. And the sum must be positive 4. Well, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So guess what? The product is 4 and the sum is 4. Therefore, these factors of positive 4 are correct. Therefore, when you are writing your parabola now in factored form, you just write these factors with an x in brackets. So x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 2. And that is a parabola in factored form. In our second example, we want to factor this parabola in standard form. Before we begin, let's identify the values of a, b, and c. A is the value in front of the x squared term. B is the value in front of the x term. And c is the value of the number at the very end. Therefore, I know that the value of c is positive 8. And I know that the value of b is positive 6. I want to take a look at the first column. We want to find factors of positive 8. Let's start with the obvious, 1 and 8. Well, their product must be 8. 1 times 8 is 8. So far, so good. However, their sum must be positive 6. 1 plus 8 is 9. Therefore, these factors don't work. Let's think of another two factors of positive 8. Well, I can think of 2 and 4. The product must be positive 8. Well, 2 times 4 is 8, so that works. Their sum must be positive 6. Well, 2 plus 4 is 6. Looks like these factors are good. So we're going to write our parabola in factored form. I'm going to have x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 4. We got the values of 2 and 4 from the very first column of our little chart. In our third example, we want to factor a parabola in standard form. Let's begin by identifying our values of a, b, and c. A is the value in front of the x squared term. B is the value in front of the x term, and c is the very last value. So let's take a look at our chart to the right. Our value of c is positive 4. and our value of b is positive 5. We need to think of two factors of positive 4. Let's think of the easiest ones, 1 and 4. Their product must be positive 4. Well, 1 times 4 is equal to 4. So that's so far so good. And the sum must be positive 5. Well, 1 plus 4 is equal to 5. Therefore, it looks like these two factors are good, and we can factor our parabola in standard form. So that is going to be x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 4. In our fourth example, we want to factor our parabola in standard form, but let's first identify the values of a, b, and c. Well, c is negative 12, and b is negative 4. Now, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because we have negative numbers. So let's think of two factors of negative 12, okay? You might think of, I don't know, 3 and 4. Well, 3 times 4 is positive 12, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So clearly that does not work. Let's think of two other factors. Okay, let's think of maybe 2 and 6. Well, 2 times 6 is equal to 12, but 2 plus 6 is only equal to 8. So we're getting a little bit closer, but that is still incorrect. Let's start playing around with the signs here. So let's keep using 2, and let's use negative 6, and let's see what happens. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12, and 2 plus negative 6 is negative 4. So it looks like we have a winner. So those are the factors that we want to use. So I'm going to rewrite my parabola in factored form now. So I'm going to get x plus 2 multiplied by x minus 6. In our fifth example, we want to factor our parabola in standard form. So let's identify our values of a, b, and c. The value of c is negative 8, and the value of b is positive 2. So let's list out some factors of negative 8. Now, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because negative signs are involved. So I suggest you take this very slowly by starting out with the incorrect answers and slowly working your way to the correct answer. Let's start with maybe 2 and 4. Well, the 2 times 4 is positive 8. Obviously, those don't work. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. As you can see, those numbers don't match, so that is not a good combination of factors. But we're close. So let's use the same numbers, but let's play around with the signs. Let's maybe use negative 2 and 4. Well, negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, but negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2. Therefore, it looks like we have a good match. So our factors would be negative 2 and positive 4. Let's go ahead and write our parabola in factored form. So that would be x minus 2 multiplied by x plus 4. In our last example, we want to factor our parabola in standard form. Let's begin by identifying our values of a, b, and c. So we know that c is negative 6, and we know that b is negative 1. Remember, when you do not have a number in front of a variable, there is a 1 that is just not written in. All right, well, let's think of the factors of 6 or negative 6, if that makes it easier. Let's start with the easiest thing. Let's start with maybe 2 and 3. Well, 2 times 3 is positive 6, and 2 plus 3 is positive 5. Immediately, you know that that does not work, so let's move on. Let's try playing around with some of the signs. Let's make that a negative, and let's keep that positive. Well, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. We're very close, but that's still incorrect. So let's try this again by, instead of having negative 2, let's have a negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6, and 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. And there you go, we have a match. So our factors are positive 2 and negative 3, so you're going to rewrite it like this. X plus 2 multiplied by x minus 3.